Ladies and gentlemen, how long have you been thinking about changing your life without actually changing it? You know what to do. You've watched the videos, read the posts, saved the notes, but you're still stuck. Not because you're lazy, not because you're incapable, but because you're trapped in your own head. Overthinking, second guessing, waiting for the perfect moment that never shows up. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Your life does not change when you feel ready. It changes when you move. Stay with me in this video, because I'm going to show you how to take action in life, how to break the cycle of hesitation, and how to build momentum so strong it rewires who you believe you are. This is how to take massive action and build your dream life. No more overthinking. If you stay until the end, you won't just feel motivated. You'll know exactly what to do next. The reason you are stuck is this. Let's be honest. You're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because you keep thinking instead of moving. That thought loop in your head? It feels productive. It delays you, and delay has a cost. Every day you hesitate, you're training yourself to hesitate again tomorrow. Pause for a second. When was the last time you surprised yourself with action? Not planning, not researching. Action. Exactly. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brain is wired to avoid uncertainty, not build greatness. So when you're about to do something bold, your mind steps in and says, wait, not yet. Let's think about this a little more. Sounds logical, feels safe. But safety is how dreams quietly die. Let me tell you a story. There was someone who had a vision for their life, big goals, clear talent. Every year they said the same thing. This is the year I start. And every year nothing changed. Not because they were lazy, not because they lacked ability. Planning instead of practicing, thinking instead of building. One day, they realized something painful. They weren't afraid of failing. They were afraid of seeing what they were capable of. Because if you never try, you never have to face the truth. That maybe you could have been more. Let that sink in. Ask yourself this right now. What are you avoiding by staying stuck? Is it rejection? Judgment? Change? Or responsibility for your own potential? Because once you move, there's no hiding. Overthinking gives you an excuse. Here's something most people don't want to hear. You don't overthink because you're smart. You overthink because you're emotionally attached to comfort. Comfort feels familiar, even when it's painful. That job you complain about. Let me ask you a question that might hit a nerve. If nothing changes in the next 5 years, would you be okay with that? Same habits, same stress, same regrets. Because that's exactly what overthinking leads to. A future that looks just like today. Here's the part that changes everything. Clarity does not come before action. It comes from action. You don't think your way into confidence. You move your way into it. Every time you wait to feel ready, you're reinforcing doubt. Every time you act despite fear, you weaken it. Fear isn't a stop sign. It's a signal. A signal that growth is nearby. Most people wait for motivation. That's backward. Motivation follows movement. You don't wake up inspired. You get inspired after you start. They don't ask, do I feel like it? They ask, what's the next move? And then they move. Even when it's messy. Even when it's uncomfortable. Especially then. Here's the moment of truth. You already know what you need to do. That conversation you're avoiding, that habit you keep delaying. That idea you keep pushing to someday. Someday is a lie we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. And comfort is the most expensive place you can live. It costs time, it costs belief, it costs your future self. So let me challenge you. What if the reason you're stuck isn't that you're broken, but because you've been playing too small? What if the version of you that takes action already exists, but you haven't given them permission yet? Because the moment you move, even imperfectly, something shifts. Your energy changes. Your identity starts to expand. And once that happens, there's no going back. Stay with me. Because next, we're breaking the myth that massive action is only for certain types of people. And once you see this, hesitation loses its grip. Let's kill a myth right now. Some people are not naturally driven. They are trained. They didn't wake up fearless. They didn't wake up confident. They woke up willing to be uncomfortable, willing to look foolish, willing to move before certainty showed up. That's the difference. Most people believe massive action is about personality. It's just not who I am. I'm not wired like that. That belief is convenient. Because of its personality, you don't have to change. But massive action isn't a trait, it's a skill. And skills are built through repetition. Think about the first time you tried something new. You hesitated, you doubted, you moved slowly. Now think about something you do effortlessly today. Driving, typing, speaking. Confidence didn't come first. Practice did. Action came before ease. Here's the real reason people don't take bold action. They expect their fear to disappear. That never happens. Fear doesn't vanish. It shrinks. And it shrinks only after you move. The first step is loud. The second is quieter. The third barely whispers. Let me give you a real picture. Imagine someone standing at the edge of a pool. They keep testing the water. One toe, then another. Still cold. Still uncomfortable. The only way in is to jump. Action works the same way. Partial commitment keeps you stuck. Massive action doesn't mean reckless. It means decisive. It means choosing direction over hesitation. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a starting point. And starting points are messy. That's normal. Progress doesn't look clean at the beginning. It looks awkward, unpolished, uncertain. That's how growth announces itself. Here's a powerful shift. Stop waiting to feel confident. Start acting confident. Behavior rewires belief. Every bold move becomes evidence. Evidence that you can handle more than you thought. And evidence compounds. Ask yourself this. When was the last time you did something that scared you a little? Not reckless, just uncomfortable. If it's been too long, that's the signal. Comfort has taken control. Massive action builds identity. Each time you act, you send a message to yourself. I do hard things. I move despite fear. I don't freeze. Over time, that message sticks. You stop forcing action. It becomes automatic. Here's where most people sabotage themselves. They try to change everything at once. That leads to burnout. Massive action isn't chaos. It's focused intensity. One clear target, one strong move. That's how momentum is built. Let me ask you something important. If someone watched your actions for a week, what would they say you're committed to? Your habits speak louder than your words. The people you admire didn't start brave. They started committed. Committed to showing up even when motivation was low. Committed to action even when emotions were messy. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They created conditions through movement. Here's the truth that sets you free. You don't need permission. Not from people. Not from circumstances. Not from fear. The moment you decide to act, something changes internally. You stop feeling like a spectator. You become the driver. Massive action doesn't happen overnight. A moment where you stop asking, what if? And start asking, why not now? Because every rep builds strength. And strength builds freedom. Stay with me. Next, we break down the decision process that turns hesitation into momentum fast. How a single decision changes everything. Everything changes in a moment. Not when the plan is perfect. Not when fear disappears. In a moment of decision. Most people think their life is shaped by circumstances. It's not. It's shaped by the decisions they delay. Indecision is still a decision. When you don't choose, you choose comfort. When you hesitate, you vote for the familiar. And the familiar keeps you exactly where you are. There's a point in every life where tolerance becomes the enemy. You tolerate stress. You tolerate excuses. You tolerate a version of yourself you've outgrown. And every day you tolerate it, you train yourself to accept less. That's the quiet danger. Here's a question that cuts deep. What have you been putting up with that you know you shouldn't? A routine that drains you? A habit that holds you back? A goal you stop believing in? Be honest. Because awareness without action changes nothing. Decisions don't require certainty. They require commitment. Most people wait to feel sure. That's backward. Certainty is created after you decide, not before. You decide first. Think about the biggest shifts in your life. They didn't come from analysis. They came from a line you refused to cross again. A moment where you said, enough. That's the power of decision. Let me paint this clearly. There are 3 decisions behind every breakthrough. What you will no longer tolerate. Second, what you are committed to building. Third, what action will you take today? Not next week. Not when conditions improve. Today. The first decision is about standards. If you don't set them, life sets them for you, and life sets them low. Raising your standards doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you intentional. The second decision is about direction. Commitment gives your energy a target. Without commitment, effort scatters. With it, effort compounds. That's how progress accelerates. The third decision is where most people freeze. Action. Because action removes excuses. Action creates exposure. Action forces accountability. And that scares people, but it also frees them. Let me tell you a truth most avoid. You don't need to know every step. You need to know the next one. Progress rewards movement, not mastery. Ask yourself this. If your future depended on a single move today, what would it be? Write it down mentally. That's not pressure, that's clarity. Here's what happens when you decide fully. Your energy shifts. Your focus sharpens. Distractions lose power. Why? Because your mind loves certainty of direction, even if the path isn't clear yet. Half decisions drain you. Full decisions fuel you. That's why waiting feels exhausting, and action feels alive. You don't drift into a great life. You decide into it, one choice at a time, one standard at a time. One action at a time. Right now, there is a decision you've been avoiding. You know it. You feel the tension around it. That tension is your signal, not to retreat, to step forward, make the call, set the standard, take the step. Because the moment you decide, everything starts to reorganize around you. Stay here. Because next, we're unlocking how energy, not willpower, keeps momentum alive. This is how your energy decides your success or failure. Let's get something straight. You don't fail because your plan is bad. You fail because your energy is low. Read that again. Low energy makes good plans useless. High energy makes imperfect plans work. This is where most people get it wrong. They keep searching for better strategies while ignoring the state they're operating from. And the state determines behavior. Think about this. Have you ever tried to make a big decision when you were tired? Everything feels harder. Smaller problems feel bigger. Confidence disappears. Different energy, different outcomes. Here's the truth. Your brain does not lead your body. Your body leads your brain. That's why when your posture collapses, your focus follows. That's why when your breathing is shallow, your thinking shrinks. You don't think your way into power. You move your way into it. Most people wait for motivation. That's a mistake. Motivation is unreliable. Energy is trainable. You don't need to feel inspired. You need to shift your state. And the state can change in seconds. Let me show you something. Notice how you're sitting right now. Are your shoulders slouched? Is your head down? If so, your nervous system is in defense mode. That's not where bold decisions come from. Power requires presence. High performers don't manage time first. They manage energy. They know when their energy is high, they win. When it's low, they reset it. They don't push harder. They shift state. Here's why this matters. Every excuse you've ever made came from a low energy state. Every bold action you've ever taken came from a high energy one. Same person, different state. Let's talk about momentum. Momentum doesn't start with planning. It starts with movement. Stand up. Breathe deeper. Move with intention. Your chemistry changes. And when your chemistry changes, your thoughts follow. People say, I don't feel confident. Confidence isn't a thought, it's a physical signal. It comes from how you carry yourself, how you breathe, how you move. Change those, and confidence shows up. Here's a story. Someone once said they were stuck and unmotivated. Same routine every day, same frustration, but their body told the real story. No movement, low intensity, zero urgency. Once they changed their physical habits, their decisions changed overnight, not months, overnight. Energy creates urgency. Urgency creates focus. Focus creates action, and action creates results. That's the chain. Break it at the top, and everything below collapses. Ask yourself this. How often do you try to solve big problems while running on empty? No wonder it feels overwhelming. You're trying to think big with small energy. Here's a simple rule. Never make life decisions in a depleted state. Reset first. Move. Breathe. Wake your system up, then decide. High energy doesn't mean being loud. It means being intentional, present, alert, engaged. That's where clarity lives. Your environment matters too. Clutter drains energy. Distractions fracture focus. You don't need perfection. You need alignment. This is why people fail to stay consistent. They rely on discipline instead of energy. Discipline breaks when energy crashes. Energy, when managed, sustains discipline. You don't need more hours in the day. You need better intensity in the hours you already have. One focused hour with high energy beats 10 distracted ones. Here's the shift. Stop asking, what should I do? Start asking, what state am I in? Fix the state, and action becomes natural. Right now, check in with yourself. Are you operating tired, distracted, flat? That's not who you are. That's just a state. In the next module, we're going to take this energy and channel it into something permanent. Not hype, not burnout, but a system that turns action into identity. Stay with me. Because once energy and identity align, momentum becomes unstoppable. This is why designing your days is crucial. Big dreams don't disappear overnight. They fade quietly. One distracted day at a time. That's how people wake up years later wondering what happened. Not because they failed, but because they never designed their days. Let's get real. Your life is not shaped by what you believe. It's shaped by what you do repeatedly. Dreams don't care about intention. They respond to action. Daily action. Most people think success comes from one big break. That's a lie. It comes from boring consistency. From showing up on days that feel ordinary. Especially those days. Here's the trap. You tell yourself you'll focus later. When things calm down. When you have more time. That moment never arrives. Life expands to fill whatever space you give it. If you don't take control of your day, something else will. Think about this. If someone followed you around for a week, would they see a life being built or time being spent? No judgment, just awareness. Designing your day doesn't mean rigidity. It means intention. You decide what matters before distractions decide for you. Without design, urgency controls you. With design, you control urgency. Here's a powerful truth. You don't need a perfect schedule. You need one protected block. One block of time where your future comes first. No notifications. No excuses. No multitasking. That block compounds. This is how momentum is actually built. Not with intensity once a month, but with focus every day. Small wins stack. And stacked wins build confidence. Let me paint a picture. Two people want the same outcome. One waits for motivation. The other moves at the same time daily. One feels inspired occasionally. The other builds identity. Guess who wins? Your days are casting votes. Every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. Miss one day? That's okay. Miss consistently? That's a direction. Here's where most people slip. They overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. Design fixes that. One step today, another tomorrow. Suddenly, years change. Ask yourself this. What is the one action today that would make tomorrow easier? That's the move, not 10 things. 1. This isn't about grinding nonstop. It's about alignment. When your actions match your goals, energy returns. Resistance fades because you're no longer fighting yourself. Your calendar reveals your priorities, not your words. If something matters, it shows up in your schedule. If it doesn't, it gets crowded out. That's not failure. That's feedback. Here's the uncomfortable question. Are you designing your days or reacting to them? Because reaction feels busy, but it builds nothing. The most successful people don't have more time. They protect what matters. They say no early, so they don't have to say no later. You don't need to overhaul your life today. You need to win today. One focused block. One intentional action. That's how years are saved. Right now, imagine your life 5 years from now. Same routines, same habits. Does that excite you? If not, today matters more than you think. Design your days, or your years will disappear quietly, and you'll wonder where the time went. Stay with me. Because next, we're locking this into identity. So action stops feeling forced and starts feeling automatic. How an identity shift changes everything. Not your schedule, not your strategy. Who do you believe you are? Because behavior doesn't come from motivation. It comes from identity. Most people try to change their lives from the outside in. New habits, new goals, new routines. But they keep the same self-image. And eventually, they snap back. Not because they're weak, but because identity always wins. Let's be honest. You don't act like someone who's unsure. You act unsure because you see yourself that way. That's the invisible force running your life. Here's the hard truth. You will never outperform the version of yourself you believe in. If you see yourself as someone who starts and stops, you'll stop. If you see yourself as someone who hesitates, you'll hesitate. No matter how motivated you feel today. This is why motivation fades. It's trying to drag an old identity into a new future. That creates friction. And friction exhausts people. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Who are you when no one is watching? Not who you talk about becoming. Not who you post about. Who you are in private. That's the identity in control. Most people say, I'm trying to change. That word is dangerous. Trying keeps the door open to quitting. Becoming closes it. Identity shifts don't happen through thinking. They happen through proof. Small actions. Repeated. Each one sends a signal. This is who I am now. Here's how the shift begins. Stop asking, what should I do? Start asking, what would someone like me do next? That question rewires behavior. Someone who respects themselves moves differently. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't negotiate with excuses. They act especially when it's uncomfortable. Here's a story. Someone once said they lacked discipline, but the truth was deeper. They had never kept a promise to themselves long enough to change how they saw themselves. Once they did, once they stood taller, spoke differently, made stronger decisions, not because life changed, because identity did. Your identity is built on evidence. Every time you follow through, it grows. Every time you quit, it weakens. Neutral doesn't exist. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. One dramatic week doesn't change identity. One honest action repeated does. Let this sink in. You don't need confidence to act. You need action to earn confidence. Confidence is not given. It's collected. Ask yourself this. What promise can you keep today, no matter what? Not impressive. Just honest. That promise is a brick. Lay enough bricks, and identity becomes solid. Here's where most people sabotage themselves. They wait to feel like a new person first. That never works. You act your way into belief, not the other way around. From this point forward, language matters. Stop saying, I hope. Start saying, I decide. Hope waits. Decision moves. There will still be fear. That doesn't disappear. But fear loses authority. It stops being the driver. It becomes background noise. When identity shifts, action becomes automatic. You don't negotiate. You do what aligns. That's power. Right now, you're closer than you think. One decision, one action, one kept a promise. That's all it takes to start the shift. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming consistent with who you know you can be. And once that alignment happens, nothing feels forced anymore. Stay with me. Because next, we lock everything together and end this with a challenge that turns intention into motion. Right now, everything you've heard means nothing unless you move. This moment matters more than you think because motivation fades, emotion cools, life gets loud again. And most people go right back to old patterns, not because they want to, because they don't decide now. Let me ask you something real. How many times have you felt this fire before, only to let it die quietly? Be honest. How many times have you said, this time is different, and then nothing changed? That ends here. You don't need another video. You don't need more information. You need one decision that turns this moment into action. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. Here's the truth. No one can escape. A year from today is coming whether you act or not. The question is simple. Will you recognize your life or will you regret it? Same routines lead to the same outcomes. Different actions create different futures. Think about your future self for a second. The version of you 1 year from now. They're either grateful you moved today or frustrated you didn't. Which one are you choosing to meet? This is where people hesitate. They wait for confidence. They wait for certainty. They wait for permission. But confidence comes after action. Certainty comes after commitment. Permission comes from you. So here's the challenge. Within the next 24 hours, do one thing that scares you just enough to matter. One conversation, one application, one workout. One decision you've been avoiding. Not perfect. Honest. No announcements, no waiting for applause. Just action. Because the strongest moves are made when no one is watching. Let this sink in. Your life doesn't change in comfort. It changes in moments of courage. And courage isn't loud. It's quiet. It's choosing to act when excuses are easier. Ask yourself this. If not now, when? If not you, who? Because someday is not a day, and waiting has never built anything worth having. Right now, your brain might be pushing back. That's normal. It wants safety. But safety is what kept you stuck. Growth requires friction, and friction is a sign you're moving forward. This is your line in the sand. You don't need to do everything. You need to do something. One step breaks inertia. One step builds momentum. So don't close this video and scroll. Stand up, breathe deeper, decide. Then move. Because years from now, you won't remember this video. But you will remember the moment you finally stopped overthinking and started building the life you knew you were capable of. This is that moment. Don't waste it. If this message hits you, if it pushed you even one step closer to action, don't disappear. Subscribe to the channel so you don't lose this momentum. Like the video, it helps this message reach people who need it. And drop a comment below. Tell me what action you're committing to take next. Say it out loud. Make it real. And if you know someone who's been stuck in their own head, share this with them. Sometimes one message at the right moment changes everything. This isn't a one-time boost. This is a movement toward better choices, stronger habits, and a life built on purpose.